Hi friends, welcome to this quick video about simplifying migration to Azure SQL Managed Instance. Thank you for joining me on this quick journey. My name is John Morehouse. I am a principal consultant with Denny Charing Associates Consulting. Before you on the slide is all my contact information. Feel free to drop me an email if you have questions about this short video, or if you got any questions around SQL or Azure, I'd be happy to try and help. My other contact information is out there as well. Pretty much I'm a nerd in the data space. I'm honored to be a Microsoft MVP in the data platform. I speak a lot, I like to give back, and I like to teach. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. And we're going to talk about how easy it is to migrate to an Azure SQL Managed Instance. But first, let's start. What is Managed Instance in reality? So Azure SQL Managed Instance is a platform as a service offering, much like Azure SQL Database. And platform as a service from a DBA perspective means that we have a little bit less control over things, but it is a fully functional Azure SQL Database instance. It is easy to migrate to Azure SQL Managed Instance as well, and it is fully managed by the platform itself. So Microsoft handles a number of key components for the platform that we no longer have to worry about. And really, it's Microsoft's answer for that between Azure SQL Database and virtual machines. So if you migrate to Azure and you deploy Azure virtual machines and run SQL in that virtual machine, that is going to be pretty much identical to your on-premise experience using things like Hyper-V or VMware, where you have virtual machines running in your local data center and you have control over the operating system, how SQL Server is installed, how it's configured, and how you can use it. With a virtual machine deployment, you can use SQL Server to its full capabilities, whereas platform as a service, you get a little bit less control. So with like Azure SQL Database, we can't use things like SQL Server's agent. So we can't run jobs in the instance like we can on premises. So the experience is a little bit different because we have a little bit less control over what we can actually do with that SQL database. Microsoft's answer to that was Managed Instance. So as you can see on the screen before you, it's that middle ground, that middle tier where it's still platform as a service, and we get a little bit more functionality from a SQL perspective, but we still don't have access to the operating system. So we can't configure the OS underneath SQL. We can see everything on top of the OS, such as the SQL Server instance itself, and we get access to things like DBmail or the agent. We can run jobs. So we've got more functionality, but we have to control more things. So really it's that middle ground answer. So some key features of Azure SQL Managed Instance, and then we're going to jump into how do we get there. And I'll do a quick demo in one of those methods so you can see how easy it is. So some key features with Managed Instance to take in mind. We get right out of the box, just like Azure SQL Database, we get some baked-in, built-in high availability. With Managed Instance, you get 4 nines, so that's a pretty good ratio to have right out of the gate. That comes with the product, so guess what you pay for. And that high availability is a great thing to have. We don't have to worry about setting up the infrastructure underneath it. Microsoft will take care of that because it's platform as a service. And that high availability is a comforting fact for me as a DBA, because then I don't have to worry about setting up high availability. I don't have to worry about managing it. It's already there for me. We can easily scale things up and down. Just like with Azure SQL Database, it is a sliding scaler in the portal. So you can resize your managed instance resource to fit your needs. It does take a little bit longer usually to resize a managed instance than it does a Azure SQL Database, but we still have that flexibility to easily slide and scale capabilities as necessary. This is one of my favorite things about platform as a service, is that right out of the gate, we get automatic backups. So in a platform as a service offering, Azure SQL Database, Azure Managed Instance, the backups are taken automatically for us, and we don't have to worry about that. As soon as we create a new database on the instance, backups automatically start happening and are retained for us for a default of 7 days. We can extend that point in time restore up to 35 days, but right out of the gate, we get 7 days of point in time restore capabilities. And as a DBA, ensuring that I can recover from a disaster or restore from a backup is probably one of my number one priorities as a DBA to protect the data that I'm in control of. So having this right out of the gate is a huge win for me. And it's one of those things that I really do sell to my customers and my clients as a feature to make sure to take into account, because this is a really cool feature to have. In the managed instance, if you remember in that pyramid scheme, it's in the middle. We're going to get a much more closer experience as what you would experience on premises. Working with SQL Server Managed Studio or Azure Data Studio, managing and controlling your on-premise environment, you're going to get the same look and feel from those tools using Azure SQL Managed Instance. So the experience is pretty close to the same. There are some caveats. There's some things that you can't do with Managed Instance. And so again, it goes back to that control. We have a little bit better control and more granular control over things with virtual machines than we do Managed Instance. But the experience itself of controlling and managing that managed instance is the same as on premises. So some really key features that really help the product and can really help your workloads. So how do we get there? There's a couple different ways that we can get there. They all have pros and cons. The first one that I absolutely love is just a simple backup and restore method. And this is the one that we're going to demo. I'm going to show you this here in a minute. I'm going to take a backup and I'm going to restore it to a managed instance so you can just see how that works. So we can take our on-premise backups, we can upload them to an Azure storage account, we can configure the managed instance to talk to the storage account, and then we can do just a simple restore. And I'll show you that in my demo. And the next one is called Log Replay Service, or LRS for short. This is very close to your traditional log shipping scenario. You can configure your on-premise environment to log ship the backups to a storage account. So you have to do backup to URL and then log ship or send the log backups to the storage account. And then you configure a service on the managed instance side to basically pick up those log backups and replay them. You would do a full restore, and the service will do all and handle all the restore processes for you. So it'll figure out what needs to be restored when, and then you have 30 days to finish that restore. When you are done and ready to fail over, you issue some commands in PowerShell and it will finish the restore process and bring the database online on the managed instance. So this is a really great way if you have a very large database, multi-terabytes, you can stage your migration to managed instance by initiating the migration with log replay services. I've used this for a couple clients. It's pretty sturdy. In the beginning it wasn't, but now it is. They've made some improvements with it. So I do like this for those larger clients and those larger environments, just because it makes the transition and the migration itself a lot smoother. Managed Instance Link. So there is a way to connect your existing on-premises SQL Server to a managed instance. And so essentially what happens behind the scene with this is that it's a distributed availability group. And so you can essentially fail over to your managed instance just like you would to a secondary replica of an availability group on premises. So the nice thing about this is that failover and that therefore that migration is pretty quick and relatively seamless. The operation is pretty much the same. There are some limitations with Managed Instance Link, such as you can only have one at a time. So if you have multiple availability groups on premises, you might have to stagger them to get them all up into a managed instance. But if you want a very short migration window, so let's say you've only got 15 minutes to actually do the migration and you've got a large database, a Managed Instance Link might be your solution because you can do that very easily and very quickly in terms of that failover process itself. Azure SQL Migration Extension for Azure Data Studio. That's what ADS stands for in that slide. So if you're familiar with Azure Data Studio, you can install the migration extension. The migration extension can do the assessment and actually help you facilitate that migration from your on-premises up into the managed instance. I personally have never used this method because I'm always in favor of doing the backup and restore if I can get away with it, or I'm going to use the log replay service. However, that option is there for you. So you can use that tool to actually do that migration. So you can kind of play around and choose whatever migration option works best for you. So with that, let's do a demo. And before we do the demo, here's what we need, just in case you want to replicate this. First and foremost, you need an Azure subscription. Obviously, none of this works without an Azure subscription, so you need one. You can go out there and look and see if your organization has one. If you have a dev test subscription, that would probably be the best place to put it, because dev test, you don't get charged for the SQL license. We need a managed instance. Back in the day, managed instance used to take several hours to build. They're getting a lot better and might take 30 minutes to an hour. But we obviously, if we're going to migrate to a managed instance, we got to have one to go to. We need a storage account because we're going to configure the storage account to talk to managed instance so that the managed instance can actually restore a backup file. We need a backup file. So we got to have a database that we are going to migrate to Azure SQL Managed Instance. So we got to have that backup file to actually do the restore. And then finally, in order to ensure communications between managed instance and the storage account, we're going to use a shared access signature token that comes from the storage account. You have to configure that and allow it access. And what we do is we actually create a SQL credential on the managed instance, and the SQL server uses that credential to authenticate to the storage account so that it can read that file and actually do the restore. So with that, let us jump over to the portal. So here I have a managed instance, SQL MI dev-east. It is located in the East US region, as we can see here. And I don't have any databases on it. We can see if I scroll down a little bit, there are no databases on it right now. So we are going to configure this MI to talk to a storage account. I have a storage account called, let's see if I can get it to come up, mieastbackups.blob.core.windows.net. So I've already configured this just to make the demo a little bit smaller and smoother, but I went ahead and created a credential. We can actually see this credential here on the left-hand side of Azure Data Studio. It is already there. I've already set the identity as a shared access signature and provided it with the token. Keep in mind, when you create the credential, when you get the credential, it's going to have a question mark in there. When you actually create the credential, you have to remove that question mark. Otherwise, the authentication won't work and it'll fail. It'll probably give you some weird message like access is denied. And that can be troublesome to troubleshoot and figure out what's actually going on. But if you have that question mark in there, make sure you remove it. So I've got my credential. I have a backup file in there. It is a AdventureWorks 2019. So I can actually now do a restore file list only. And all this is going to do is read that backup file and then tell me what logical files are in there. So we can see when I run that, I get 2 rows back. And those are my logical files that are contained within the backup. And so now I can restore it. So I'm going to issue your plain Jane T-SQL that we all know and love, restore database, AdventureWorks 2019 from URL. And I'm going to specify the URL path to that blob storage account. My container is SQL MI-east and then the actual file. So when I run this, when I did it before just to test some timings, it took about 50 seconds for it to actually complete. Keep in mind that while it's running, we can actually go over to another query window and we can actually check on it. We can see that there is a restore command running on the MI right now. If we look in sys.dm_exec_requests, where command is equal to restore database, we can see that the restore database command is out there. Right now it says 0% complete. In actuality, it only will tell us like 0, 50, and 100. It's not 100% accurate, of course, but I can see that now my command is actually gone. If I go back to my original query, yep, look, it actually finished in 32 seconds. And so it actually finished faster. So let's go back to the portal And let's do a refresh on our databases. Oh, we can see one. So the database was restored. It is now online, and we can see that it has already started taking backups for our database. That's really simple and really easy to migrate an on-premise environment to an Azure SQL Managed Instance and to take advantage of those platform as a service offerings. And we can see here that my days of backup retention are set to 7. I've got 7 days to do a point-in-time restores if I want. I can configure that backup retention right here. I get all that versatility and flexibility that the platform offers me. And we have successfully migrated a on-premise database up to platform as a service, Azure SQL Managed Instance. And now we can go do more. So make sure to take a look at Azure SQL Managed Instance as a offering if you are interested in moving to Azure. I really do like and enjoy this platform. I think it makes my life as a DBA significantly easier, as well as for my customers and their customers. So let's jump back to our slides. And so our demo is now complete. And that is the end of this quick video on simplifying migration to Azure SQL Managed Instance. I hope you enjoyed this quick video. If you got any questions, feel free to drop me a note. Make sure to like and subscribe to videos as I do more. If there's things that you do want to see me do content on, make sure to drop a comment in the comments below, and I always read them and try to answer. But make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much. Have a great day.